We promised you a Sean Payton show on Monday. Here it is on an Orange and Blue Today, Tuesday. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. We're going to talk about Sean Payton and the struggles there, Mace. Some curious decisions from Sean we're going to get into today.
Well, like I said, at the end of regulation on Saturday, given Sean Payton's proclivity for aggressiveness, I was surprised that his aggressive nature did not result in him going for two and trying to win the game right then and there. And as he noted on Monday, there were some second thoughts.
Second thoughts. Who could have maybe fought for the two-point conversion? We're here to talk about it. Again, Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. What is up, OBT crowd? And Mace, let's get into this because as Marvin Mims catches an amazing pass in double coverage, he goes up and he gets it. I called it a wheelbarrow balls play because of Randy from South Park, the dad who's running around in a wheelbarrow with his balls in it. Like, that was a great throw. It was a great catch. It was a great play. And then you see Sean Payton doing this. I believe this camera showed Bo Nix doing this as well. And I'm not talking about peace, baby, although we do love peace on this show. I'm talking about two, but then they go to Gene Steratore and the replay, and let's look at it, and the ball was moving, and is it a touchdown? And that extra bit of time, and they're going to review every touchdown. But in that time, was it somebody that said something to Sean?
I believe the thought was a tie gets you in.
I don't like it.
Well, let's just go back through, overtime history. I went back over the last 10 years, mainly because I was going back for the 10-year sample size due to that's when PATs got moved back. And it's a little under 95% of the PATs have gone in since they were moved back to a 33-yard kick from a 20-yard kick. And then evaluating that in light of a two-point success rate being 48.2% in that same time frame. Two-point conversions, by the way, are down this year in terms of success rate, but that seems more like an anomaly, historically speaking.
Okay.
But also you're on the road. Yeah, it surprised me when they didn't go for two, but I wonder if in that pause to review, it was, hey, Sean, we're in with a tie. And then independent of the analytics, it's just how your defense was doing. The Bengals were marching up and down the field. You hadn't forced a punt to that point, although you did come out and open overtime with a punt force, which is, it's sort of hilarious that you don't do something like that the entire game. That's pretty rudimentary. And then you do it to open overtime, and your offense can't capitalize. Both possessions for the Broncos offense, 3 and out. And in between the drive, the Bengals had to miss field goal with a couple of very curious timeouts that were called, I think calling them was inconsistent with the notion of going for a tie. If you were going for a tie, you're thinking, okay, let's take our time and perhaps we can run the clock out if we get the ball back to the deadlock that's going to advance us to the postseason and knock the Bengals out. Like there was some inconsistency there that has my brain turning a bit, because Sean Payton did say after the game that he thought about the notion of a tie, that did come into play with the decision making, which is fine. But when you're calling the two timeouts, he said it was because of defensive fatigue. If it's defensive fatigue, then what you do is you call the timeouts toward the end, right? You don't call them immediately. The second of those timeouts the Broncos called, they called it right away, like they were trying to preserve time. That doesn't make sense. I mean, if you're thinking about fatigue, then you call the time, you wait a bit, and then you call the timeout, because then you get a few more seconds, 10, 20 seconds, however many it is. I mean, shoot, you can call a timeout defensively right up until the snap, right?
And you get right next to the ref.
Let them go to the huddle, and then you go, break the huddle and get to the line, and then you call timeout.
You can see what formation they're in.
Yes, like calling the timeouts. I get the whole thing of you're trying to your defense is exhausted, and you're thinking about that because they've been on the field so much. But if that's the case, if that's your consideration, you don't call the timeout immediately. You wait, so calling the timeout immediately means you're focused on preserving the clock, which shouldn't have been an issue if you were thinking about the tie. It is the logical inconsistency here that has my mind twisted in a pretzel. I'm sitting here Tuesday, we're about to turn the page from 2024 to 2025, and I'm still hung up on it.
Yeah, I'm hung up on it as well because there's that twist for Sean, like in the game compared to afterwards. Sean has forgotten more about football than both you and I know combined. Yeah. Okay. But it just seems in the moment, there's this twist of logic that seems wrong for what he knows. He's practiced the stuff, even going back to the free kick stuff. He's told us about that almost as soon as he got to Denver. He's like, we got to tell him about the free kick. And like, it's a cool story for nerds like us. Sean knows this type of stuff, yet in the game, in the moment, he makes these decisions that are inconsistent with what he knows.
They go over these scenarios, and that's why I'm glad you mentioned like what they do in practice, because I don't think any team is better prepared for the array of situations that you face, especially at the end of a half, than the Broncos. I mean, because he went out after the fair catch free kick and all that happened. He said in the interview, "Yeah, we work on that," and you and I could confirm that because we saw them practicing it. That I think, that management there, I think at some point there's got to be execution involved with it as well. Like if you get to a point where you have a punt, don't run into the guy, right? I mean, but it was interesting that the Bengals, the Chargers, they were willing to let the clock run out, and the Broncos did try another play when the Chargers were just saying, "Hey, we're trying to get to halftime here." So I get but this is 2 weeks in a row that we're talking about these, these decisions. And unlike the Chargers game where you can sit there and say, Traymon Smith, don't hit the guy. Javonte Williams ideally shouldn't fall as he's about to get the ball thrown his way. This did come down to this was about a decision here that we're strictly a decision that we're talking about. And let's hear Sean Payton talk about second guessing himself, because he said in the hours and days that followed, he did look back on that 2-point conversion decision. Here's what he had to say on Monday.
Oh, certainly. You go through it all the time, relative to what the call would have been. Based on the outcome, you always second guess or you always do that as a head coach. And so I know I kind of felt I trusted my gut at the moment. But yeah, I think it's normal to do that.
Say he trusted his gut at the moment. But you said you saw him on the sideline signaling too, not just because we all saw Bo. We all saw Bo holding up 2 fingers.
Yeah. And
definitely there was a sense in the locker room, I think, of an expectation that we're going to go for 2 there.
Yes.
I mean, there's the old Dick Vermeil chart, right?
When you go for 2, and I'll say this, Mace, if they go for 2 and they don't get it, I'm not crushing Sean today or on Tuesday. We're saying, wow, can you believe the huevos of their coach?
And people are like, oh yeah, right. You would have written that. You're damn right. I would have written the column saying if they went for 2 and they didn't get it, they made the right call.
Yes.
Because the process would have been correct.
Yes.
Maybe you don't always get the outcome you want, but if the process is correct, you can live with the results.
Yes. That's Joe Burrow over there, man. You hadn't stopped him all day. You're on the 2. Your offense was inconsistent. They had some big plays. Bo had some throws. Bo had some bad throws.
Yeah.
Troy Franklin stops running when he turns back to look at a ball.
By the way, the famous Dick Vermeil chart, and it applies specifically to like fourth quarter end game situations. Trail by 1, the Dick Vermeil chart says go for 2.
There you go, man. There you go. Where's the Dick Vermeil chart on that big
let's not put this. Sometimes we need to simplify things, and maybe this is a good thing to have. The Vermeil chart, by the way, goes all the way to 20 points in either direction, lead or trail. Like if you lead by 1, you go for 2. If you lead by 4, you go for 2. If you lead by 5, you go for 2. If you lead by 6, you go for 1. So,
yep.
Yeah. That's why he's a Hall of Famer.
It's tried and true, man.
Because he came up with stuff like that.
Yeah, it's tried and true. And it's something as simple as, why would your gut in that moment, in the way that game had played out, with the way your defense was getting worked against Joe Burrow, why would your gut say, go for the extra point? You still have this game against Kansas City. It's still the same thing. If you don't get it, you go for 2. You don't get it, you still got to win against Kansas City to get in. So you've got that almost as the cheese pizza in the trunk, the guarantee in the box of like, let's just flip and go for it. Let's end this thing right now. Let's go to the playoffs right now.
And it's the old, also to kind of bring another sport into it. I mean, there's the other layer is usually on the road, you go for 2, do you not?
Yes.
In that scenario, kind of like in basketball, where if you're down 2 and you've got the last shot and you're on the road, 3. Or if you're an underdog trying to pull off the upset, if you're a 15 against a 2 and you're down by 2, you're trying a 3 on that last possession. You're setting up a 3 ball.
Yep.
Because you've got a better shot of making 1 shot than playing 5 more minutes. And this is also another thing beyond the analytics, the way the game was flowing. Now, Sean Payton's like, we had momentum. You had momentum from that touchdown, but your defense had just given up a touchdown. Okay. Do you want it to come down to a coin flip as to whether you can maintain momentum? If the Broncos win the coin toss, they might have, maybe they win the game right then and there. Who knows? Game flows differently. But do you want it to come down to that? Or do you want it to be in your hands to make the play? Make it, and we're in the playoffs, lose, and we get another shot. Taking the way that game was flowing and the way the Bengals were just rampaging up and down the field on the Broncos defense, 10 more minutes of that was not likely to go well. And indeed, even though the Broncos did get off the field that first series when they cranked up the pass rush, they didn't have another stop in them while the Broncos offense went 3 and out back-to-back at the worst possible time. The Broncos offense actually didn't have a bad day on balance. Wasn't as consistent as the Bengals offense, but Bo Nix made some plays. Bo Nix was, going toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow, and he was answering Joe Burrow, which is a great sign for where Bo can go in the future. I don't want this crap about, Bo's not good enough. He missed the throw in overtime. Okay. That was a throw missed to a guy that there's been a lot of throws missed to, and you have to say, okay, what's the culpability of Troy Franklin in all this? Because
watch the film.
Yeah, it's not. He holds up a little bit. It's not working. I mean,
he's running full speed, and he doesn't have late hands. Late hands are the greatest thing ever because the ball's coming in, then you look at the last second. So he's running full speed, and he looks back for the ball, and his body slows as he looks back, and then he sees where the ball's going, and then he tries to catch up, and then it's too late. That's on Troy. That's not on Bo. Okay, for everyone like, Bo missed a throw, and how's he doing this with Franklin? By the way, the pick was Bucky Irvin. Picked 23 spots after Troy Franklin was Bucky Irvin. If you got that duck, brother, we're talking about their best running back. We're talking about their 3rd best receiver. We're talking about a true joker. Imagine Bucky Irvin, Marvin Mims, Courtland Sutton. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and they moved up for Troy. Had they stayed put, Bucky's would have still been available had they stayed put.
Bucky Irving, man, cult hero down in Tampa at this point.
Oh, he's everything for them, man. They love him down there. They loved him from day one. Day one. Because
the run game travels in the playoffs. Bucky Irving's the reason why they've got a shot to shock some people in January if they get in the playoffs. If they get it done,
they could beat Detroit, they could beat Minnesota, they could beat anybody.
Yeah, they can. There's no. That's the like you look below the surface at the teams at the top level, the teams that can come in and really mess things up. And yeah, I may have a little bias because you see that old Tampa Bay 1983 picture there that I've got framed, my past, but yeah. They got something going. I mean, I hate to play the what if draft game though, man. It's like it's easy. It's easy, but oh yeah, like and Bucky they got to know Bucky Irving as well. Like that's the thing. I think they would have loved to have had Bucky Irving as well as Troy Franklin. But you get the thought process. Okay, you know, we've got to add a pass catching target here. We've got to find some speed. It's not coming from Troy Franklin, although it is starting to come from Marvin Mims Jr. And I think if we're going to kind of turn the page and start exploring some more possibilities for this offense and getting something dynamic happening, I think it starts with more Marvin Mims Jr.
Yes.
Keep finding ways to feed him the ball. More, he's maturing as a receiver. Marvin Mims does not make that kind of catch that he made with 8 seconds to go. He does not make that kind of catch in September. He's growing. And some of that, and a lot of that is the confidence is growing as they found a good role for him.
They're feeding him.
And it's leading to other possibilities. The horizons are completely opening up for this young man.
Amazing how that works, huh? You give him an opportunity that he's wanting and he's fighting for, and he gets it, and then he wants more, and you give him more, and he does more, and then he wants more, and you give him more, and he does more.
It feeds off itself.
Yeah, it's perpetual, man. And that pass, the 51-yarder, but it's 67 yards in the air, the longest throw of the NFL this year. It's a perfect throw from Bo, and it's a great play.
And you're going to tell me that Bo Nix can't throw deep, doesn't have that ability? There's a lot of nonsense and crap out there about Bo Nix coming from people who I think it's fair to say they want to see him fail.
Yes.
Or more accurate. Maybe it's more accurate.
That's right.
They want to be right. They want to be right. They talked Bo Nix down going into the draft, and they just, we want to be right. We want to get this right. So I'm going to keep saying this, even though the evidence is right there in front of you.
Yeah,
that he's an accurate quarterback and he's got the ability to make some throws. I'm not saying he has every club in his bag. I mean, I think again, like Drake May has an arm that's on another level, but to say Bo Nix can't get the ball downfield, it's ludicrous. Now, do you want to be more consistent with that? Yes. You think back to the Marvin Mims Jr. play against the Chargers, where yes, it should have been interference, but yes, it was also not a good throw by Bo Nix because he forced Marvin to come back.
He learned it this time. I got to rip it sooner.
Yeah, he learned his lesson from that, and the results were better 9 days later. It's almost like young players grow and get better. They learn from their mistakes. What a concept.
I'm shocked.
Yes, that you give guys more opportunities, that you let them grow, that you live with the bumps, and oh my goodness, you see something that happens 9 days later that failed the game before.
Yep.
You know, that's just how this works. By the way, Marvin Mims Jr. this month has 2 100-yard games because, of course, he had the 93-yard catch against Cleveland, which was part of a 105-yard day. But he's sitting there with let me see, he's got 290 yards over 4 games. You know what that would have him on?
1,200.
Yeah, buddy. That's a easily 1,000-yard pace for the season.
And you know how many catches that'd be on? that yards per catch average is going to be healthy.
It would be on his 16 game pace to go back to the old 16 game schedule. Would be 1,160 yards on 72 catches.
It's pretty healthy.
So a 17 game pace would be, would be over 1,200 yards receiving. And that's what he's done this month.
Craziness.
He's coming along. Like He's looking legit. Like you may not have to go shopping in the off season because of what you see with Marvin Mims Jr. You may if you've got the item there in your store, or in your closet, you don't have to go to the store and buy one. Right, it's right there.
And you Marvin Mims Jr. Yet.
Yeah, got another couple of years of cost control.
Yep.
If this team surprises people in January, I think it involves Marvin Mims Jr. making a dynamic play or two. Remember, let's go back to the Buffalo game in 2023 when he earned AFC Special Teams Player of the Week honors, and that game changed how everybody has to play the Broncos in the punt game because they started to kick away from him. So now you don't see as many field flippers against the Broncos, in part because teams they have to account for Marvin Mims Jr. and say our first priority is to keep it away from him. Ever since that game, this is another thing. You want players that force opposing coaches to change their plans to account for him. Marvin Mims Jr. already does that on special teams. He's starting to become that guy on offense that changes how teams have to play defense because you're worried. Puts the fear of God in you.
Also opens up things for Court.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It does not hurt Court at all to have someone that takes attention away, safety attention specifically, because you're going to have to keep someone over the top.
Yeah.
Because Marvin will get you over the top. It's proven. I love it.
They found that guy. They found that dude.
And he fought for it, man. In August, he's yelling at John Morton.
Yeah.
In December,
he's frustrated.
And he never told us. We asked him about it. I asked him specifically about maintaining his patience. Remember that question?
Yeah.
And he wouldn't ever feed the beast.
Mm-hmm.
But you knew it was boiling underneath the surface. And that's what I love about Bo. That's what I love about Marvin. You got it with Court as well. There's this hunger, like this boiling of desire.
It's boiling desire, but it doesn't bubble over. They control it. They don't let it consume them and become a problem in the locker room. Like, I'm not getting mine and I'm going to mope around. When guys like Adam Troutman talk about culture, this is part of what they're talking about.
That's what that is.
Yeah. That you've got such a good culture that even if a player is frustrated by what their role is in the moment, it doesn't become something that's an issue. They kind of, they learn how to deal with it and they just work harder to earn the chances in the future.
It's an important message for a young player like Blake Watson.
Yes, it is.
His opportunity. Blake Watson can play. And we talk about Bucky Irving, and my answer is Blake Watson. He's not Bucky Irving, but if you want a Bucky type of impact, that comes from Blake Watson. He has no opportunity yet because of the talent above him on the roster. But if he's patient, we could be talking about Blake Watson as that third down back next year.
And all this we're talking about is because of what you've established from the top down. And so I want to kind of circle back here to we're talking about Sean Payton and the decision-making at the end of the game. Are you frustrated with that? Yes.
Yes.
On balance, has Sean Payton done a good job coaching this team? Are players getting better? Has he built a better culture than existed around here? All these things are true. Like, it's not, maybe it's a reminder that it's not perfect, but it tells you kind of how close things are. How it's not just close for the players and the roster, it's close for the coach as well. And like he said, he sat down and second-guessed himself. That's part of the job. He might be in his 60s, but that does not mean he can't learn from it.
Old dog can learn new tricks. Game hasn't passed by. I've heard so much crap about Sean Payton over the last couple of days. Fire Sean Payton. Game's passing by. It's all crap.
That's so freaking stupid.
Did you watch the post-game show? Just tell me yes. Just lie to me.
I watched part of it.
Okay. Did you see my clowns part? Sean Payton should be fired. Clowns.
Yeah.
Sean Payton's game passing by. Clowns.
Yeah.
Y'all the clowns out there talking this nonsense about Sean.
As some people thought Carly Simon sang in You're So Vain, there are clowns in my coffee. A lot of people mishear the lyrics. I'm one of them. Why are clowns in her coffee? It's clouds in her coffee.
Who would put clowns in the coffee? Clowns freak me out, by the way.
Me too.
I think I blame Poltergeist.
I think the only clown I can handle is Krusty on The Simpsons.
Yeah.
But he's kind of more of a complete parody of the entertainment industry, you know, more than just the Herschel Krustofsky clown-related entertainment show.
Sean Payton sounded a little sick on Monday morning.
Yeah, he mentioned even after the game, they was kind of feeling hoarse and all that.
Yeah, he said that at the beginning of his presser. He said that, right?
Yeah, like there's, and we can kind of tell. Remember, there was that OTA, and like back in May, like he wanted to expound, but like his voice would not allow him to do it. But he was up there. Yeah, like sometimes you gotta, especially having an extra day. I hope he was able to get some rest. It was his birthday on Sunday, by the way, so I hope he had a happy birthday even after the loss. Hope he was able to just get some rest, because that's, when you're in a building, I've worked for NFL teams, and I've seen all the messages around there that players get about get enough sleep, get your 7-8 hours of sleep, because that rest, that as a key part of rest and recuperation is making sure you sleep. Adam Troutman talked to me a few weeks ago about getting enough sleep on a short week. Like that's a huge thing. It's true for coaches as well.
Oh yeah.
And the coaches tend to keep ridiculous hours, but if you're feeling under the weather, but even if not, get that mental refresh as well. It's actually a lesson I should learn from time to time. I don't get enough sleep.
When you send me emails at 3 a.m., I go, Mace.
You
send me emails at midnight, I'm fine. You send me emails at 3 a.m., I'm like, Mace.
Well, the thing you worry about is if you get an email at 3 a.m. and then you get another email at 9 a.m. If you get a email at 3 a.m., then you don't hear from me till 11. Usually it means I did manage to sleep until 10:15 or so. Sports writers' hours aren't necessarily bankers' hours.
Not at all.
So.
Not at all. It's a Tuesday show. We will be here for you with the Wednesday show. And I believe we haven't got the schedule, locker room open. We're going to have our full show on Wednesday. And people also want to know when we're doing an OBT After Dark. So we'll have to figure that one out as well, as a celebration of 16,000 subscribers, Mace.
Maybe that's I don't know. We'll talk about that. I have an idea. Maybe it's.
Keep it to yourself.
I'll keep it to myself, but I have something in mind.
Okay, good for that. That's a wrap for today's program. Mace, before we're out of here, we're looking forward to our 2025 goals here on YouTube with Denver Sports. But how can people always help us out?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never miss
vid.
It's like I'm waving a plane back to the jetway,
You're waving it into Buffalo for the playoffs.
Let's
go.
Waving the Broncos on to Buffalo. Actually, I'm sitting right now. I'm pointing in the direction of Denver.
That's east. So point east.
Okay, let's see. Yep, that's north. Buffalo from where I sit is that way. That way.
Just go that way. Go that way.
On to Buffalo.
OBT's a BFD, man. We're there for you. He's Mace. I'm Cease. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.